Gone without a trace. How I disappeared. When my fiancée chose her ex over me, she's desperate now. You never realize how quickly your life can change until it happens to you. One day, you're planning a wedding with the woman you believe is your soulmate. The next, you're selling your house, packing up your entire existence, and disappearing without a trace. All because she wanted a break to revisit her cheating ex. I never planned to vanish. I never imagined I'd cut all contact with the woman I once thought I'd grow old with. But sometimes, the most devastating moments in your life become the catalyst for the greatest transformation. This is the story of how I disappeared when my fiancée chose her ex over me, and how her life completely fell apart in the aftermath. The beginning of the end. Allison and I had been together for 4 years when I proposed. We met at a friend's birthday party. I was immediately drawn to her laugh, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her passion for environmental law. Our relationship wasn't perfect, whose is, but it was solid. We communicated well, supported each other's careers, and genuinely enjoyed building a life together. I proposed on a hiking trip to Zion National Park at sunset on Angel's Landing. She cried, said yes, and for 6 blissful months, we planned our future together. We bought a house in the suburbs of Portland, a charming craftsman with a backyard perfect for the golden retriever we planned to adopt. We discussed children, retirement plans, and where we'd travel once we had saved enough. I'd met her ex, Marcus, a few times at gatherings. He was the stereotypical bad boy she had dated for 3 years before me, tattoos, motorcycle, that practiced aloofness that some women find irresistible. Allison had told me stories about their volatile relationship, the cheating, his, the manipulation, also his, and finally, her decision to leave after finding texts from not one, but 3 different women on his phone. He was exciting, but exhausting, she once told me. I'm so grateful to have found stability and real love with you. I believed her. That was my first mistake. The break. It was a Tuesday evening in April when Allison came home later than usual from work. I'd made her favorite dinner, butternut squash risotto with sage brown butter, and was just lighting candles when I heard her key in the lock. One look at her face, and I knew something was wrong. She couldn't meet my eyes as she set down her bag and poured herself a glass of wine without saying hello. "We need to talk," she finally said, those 4 words that never precede anything good. My stomach dropped as I sat across from her at our kitchen table, the risotto growing cold between us. "Marcus reached out to me last month," she began, her voice unnaturally controlled. "He's been through therapy. He says he's changed, and he wants to meet to apologize for how he treated me." I nodded slowly, trying to ignore the warning bells in my head. "Okay, are you going to meet him?" She looked down at her hands, at the 1.5-carat diamond I'd spent 6 months saving for. "I already have. 3 times. The room seemed to tilt slightly. 3 times, I repeated. "Nothing happened," she added quickly. "But seeing him again, it stirred up some old feelings that I thought were gone. I'm confused, and I think I need some space to figure things out." "Space," I echoed, the word feeling foreign in my mouth. "A break," she clarified, finally meeting my eyes. "Just for a little while. I've loved our relationship, but I can't help wondering if I'm missing out on something by not exploring these feelings for Marcus. I don't want to go into marriage with any doubts." I sat there, stunned into silence. This woman who had cried tears of joy at my proposal, who had spent hours discussing what song we'd have for our first dance, was now telling me she needed a break to explore feelings for the ex who had repeatedly cheated on her. "So you want to put our engagement on hold while you date your ex?" I asked, my voice sounding strangely calm despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. She winced at my directness. "It's not dating. I just need to know for sure." "And if you decide it's him?" "Then at least we didn't make a mistake by getting married when I wasn't certain," she replied, as if this was a perfectly reasonable position. I looked around at our home, at the photos of us on the walls, the wedding planning binder on the coffee table, the life we had built together, and felt something inside me break. "How long do you need?" I asked, my voice hollow. "I don't know. A month, maybe 2. I can stay with my sister if that would be easier." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak further. Later that night, as Allison packed a bag for her temporary move to her sister's place, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, realizing that our relationship was already over. She just didn't have the courage to end it cleanly. The decision. For the first week after Allison left, I was a wreck. I called in sick to work, ignored calls from friends, and alternated between hoping she'd come to her senses and hating myself for wanting her back after such a betrayal. But on day 8, something shifted. I was scrolling through my phone and found a photo of us from the previous summer. Allison and I on a beach in Maui, sunburned and happy. I remembered how perfect that trip had been, how I'd thought to myself, "This is the woman I want to spend my life with." Now she was exploring feelings for the man who had broken her heart multiple times. In that moment, I realized 2 things with crystal clarity. 1, I deserved better than to be someone's backup plan too. Whatever Allison decided after her break, our relationship was irreparably damaged. Once these realizations sank in, a strange calm washed over me. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to convince her to choose me. I simply wanted to reclaim my dignity and start a new life, one where I wasn't waiting for someone to decide if I was worth loving. That's when the plan began to form. Not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. The disappearing act. I called my boss the next morning and asked for a meeting. John had always been a mentor as much as a manager, and when I explained my situation, he was surprisingly understanding. "As it happens," he said, "our Seattle office has been looking for someone with your expertise. It would mean a promotion, better salary, and a fresh start. Interested?" I accepted on the spot. Next, I contacted a real estate agent. The housing market was hot, and our home would sell quickly. Allison and I had equal stakes in the property, so legally I needed her consent to sell. But I knew she wouldn't want to buy me out. Her lawyer's salary was good, but not enough to take on the full mortgage. When I texted her about selling the house, her response was immediate. We need to talk about this. Can we meet?" I agreed to coffee at a neutral location. When I saw her walk into the cafe, my heart still skipped a beat, a reflex I resented. She looked tired, conflicted. "You're selling our house?" she asked after ordering her latte. "Don't you think that's a bit drastic? It's only been 2 weeks. The real estate agent thinks we can get 15% more than we paid," I replied, keeping my voice businesslike. "With the market being what it is, it makes financial sense to sell now rather than later." "But what about if I come back?" The "if" didn't escape my notice. "Allison, let's be honest. You're not on a break to find yourself. You're test driving your ex to see if his model is better than mine. Either way, I won't be waiting around to find out." Her face flushed. "That's not fair. I'm genuinely confused." "About whether you want to marry me," I interrupted. That's all I need to know. Someone who truly wants to spend their life with me wouldn't need to explore feelings for their ex. I deserve better than that, and I'm choosing to give myself better." She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "I still love you," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "Maybe," I replied, "but not enough. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the house sale." As I walked out of that cafe, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The pain was still there, but now it was accompanied by something else. Resolve. The execution. Over the next 3 weeks, I executed my plan with military precision. 1. I accepted the job in Seattle, negotiating a start date 6 weeks out. 2. I put our house on the market. It sold in 9 days for 20% above asking. 3. I hired a lawyer to handle the sale and ensure Allison received her fair share. 4. I told only my parents and my closest friend about my plans to move. 5. I systematically donated, sold, or packed everything I owned. During this time, Allison texted occasionally, her messages becoming increasingly concerned as she realized I was serious about moving on. She hadn't made her decision yet, but was feeling closer to clarity. I responded politely but briefly, never giving her any information about my plans beyond the house sale. The day before closing on the house, I did something that some might consider extreme. I changed my phone number, deleted all my social media accounts, and created new email addresses. I wasn't just moving cities, I was disappearing completely. My reasoning was simple: a clean break. No drunk texts from Allison at 2 a.m., no mutual friends updating me on her life, no digital breadcrumbs leading from my old life to my new one. The only people who had my new contact information were my parents, my best friend Ryan, who I swore to secrecy, and my new employer. Everyone else would have to live without me, at least for a while. On my last night in Portland, I wrote Allison a letter, not out of obligation, but because I needed the closure. "Allison, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I've accepted a job in another city and am starting fresh. I've changed my number and email, and I've asked our mutual friends not to share any information about me with you. This isn't about punishing you. This is about me choosing myself. Maybe for the first time in our relationship. You needed space to decide if you wanted me, and I'm giving you infinite space. I hope you find what you're looking for, whether it's with Marcus or someone else. But I won't be waiting to find out. Take care of yourself. James." I left the letter with my keys on the kitchen counter of our now empty home, took one last look around, and walked out without looking back. The new beginning Seattle welcomed me with its characteristic rain and surprising warmth. My new apartment, a modern one-bedroom in Capitol Hill, was nothing like our Portland craftsman, and that was intentional. I wanted nothing that reminded me of Allison or our life together. The first month was hard. Despite my resolve, there were nights I lay awake wondering if I'd made a mistake. What if she had chosen me? What if this break really was temporary? Had I overreacted? But these doubts gradually faded as I built my new life. My job was challenging and rewarding. I joined a rock climbing gym and made friends who knew nothing about my past. I adopted a rescue dog, a scruffy terrier mix named Eddie, who became my constant companion. I won't pretend I healed overnight. Grief comes in waves, and there were days the tide nearly overwhelmed me. But each time I resurfaced, I found myself stronger, more confident in my decision. 4 months into my new life, I received an email from Ryan. "Thought you should know. Allison's been asking everyone where you are. She's become pretty desperate to find you. Apparently, things with Marcus imploded spectacularly. Shocked face emoji. I've kept my promise and haven't told her anything. Hope Seattle is treating you well, brother. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no urge to reach out. And that's when I knew I was truly beginning to heal. The aftermath. 8 months after my disappearance, I flew back to Portland for Ryan's wedding. I knew there was a chance Allison would be there, but I felt ready to face her if necessary. Sure enough, as I stood at the bar waiting for a drink, I heard her voice behind me. "James?" I turned around, bracing myself for the rush of emotions that never came. Instead, I felt a strange detachment as I took in her appearance. She looked thinner, tired, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "Hello, Allison," I said calmly. You disappeared," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "No one would tell me where you went. I tried everything to find you." I nodded. "That was the point." "Can we talk, please?" She glanced around. "Somewhere private?" Against my better judgment, I agreed. We found a quiet corner in the garden of the venue, away from the celebration. "I made a terrible mistake," she began, tears forming immediately. "Marcus hadn't changed at all. Within weeks, he was back to his old patterns. I ended things, but when I went to tell you I'd chosen you, you were gone. The house was sold, your number disconnected. It was like you'd never existed." I listened silently, feeling strangely detached as she continued her story. After I disappeared, she'd fallen into a depression. She'd taken a leave of absence from work when the stress became too much. She'd moved in with her parents temporarily, unable to afford a place of her own after using her portion of the house money to pay off debts Marcus had accumulated in her name. "I realized too late what I'd thrown away," she finished, wiping her eyes. "I've spent months trying to find you, to tell you how sorry I am, to see if there's any chance." "There isn't," I said, gently but firmly. "Allison, I'm not saying this to hurt you, but I'm grateful for what happened. Not the pain, but the clarity it gave me. I deserve someone who doesn't need to test drive an ex before committing to me." "I know," she whispered. "I know that now. But people make mistakes. We could try again, start over." "I don't want to start over," I interrupted. "I've built a new life that I love. I'm seeing someone now, actually." This was true. I'd been dating Claire, a pediatric nurse I met through my climbing gym, for 2 months. It wasn't serious yet, but it was honest and uncomplicated in a way my relationship with Allison never had been. Allison's face crumpled. "Oh, I wish you well," I said, meaning it. "I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me." As I walked away to rejoin the wedding celebration, I felt no satisfaction in her pain. This wasn't the revenge story some might have hoped for. I hadn't disappeared to punish Allison or to make her regret her choices, though she clearly did. I disappeared to save myself, to reclaim my dignity, to create a life where I wasn't waiting for someone to decide if I was worth choosing. And in that, I had succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. The lessons. It's been over a year now since I vanished from my old life. Allison still reaches out occasionally through mutual friends, but I've maintained my boundaries. Claire and I are now living together, taking things day by day with no pressure or timelines. Looking back, I can see that what felt like the end of my world was actually the beginning of a better one. Here's what I learned from disappearing. 1. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. I spent years believing Allison was the best I could do, that her love validated my existence. Now I know my value exists independently of anyone else's assessment. 2. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Our culture celebrates fighting for relationships, never giving up. But sometimes the strongest choice is to recognize when something is broken beyond repair and have the courage to leave. 3. New beginnings require complete endings. My decision to change my number and delete social media seemed extreme to some, but that digital break allowed me to heal without constant reminders of what I'd lost. 4. The life you build after devastation can be better than the one you planned. I never would have moved to Seattle, never would have met Claire, never would have discovered my passion for rock climbing if Allison hadn't asked for that break. What seemed like the worst moment of my life led to the best version of it. People often ask if I regret disappearing, if I could have handled things differently. Maybe. Perhaps there was a less drastic way to move on, but in moments of crisis, we make the choices we need to survive. I chose myself. I chose my dignity. I chose to disappear. And in that disappearance, I finally found myself. Epilogue. Last week, I received a small package forwarded through my parents' address. Inside was the engagement ring I had given Allison, along with a note. I've held on to this for too long, hoping for a different ending to our story. I understand now that returning to the past isn't possible. Thank you for teaching me the hardest lesson of my life. I'm sorry it came at your expense. Be happy, James. You deserve it. I closed the box, put it in my desk drawer, and went to meet Claire for dinner. As we walked hand in hand through our neighborhood, talking about our days and making weekend plans, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Sometimes, the greatest gift someone can give you is the opportunity to disappear and find yourself in the process. And sometimes, the person who breaks your heart is the one who accidentally sets you free.